When it came to this table, I really wanted to try making sort of a barrel base, big wood octagon. And it's just something I had never truly done before. I'd worked on some and put some back together, but I'd never made one myself. And I had treated myself to a Christmas present of shaper bits, since somebody gave me a broken up old shaper and I got it back together. Treated myself to shaper bits to make such things. I had been warned that it's more complicated than you think, but I wanted to give it a try for my own, and that's what we're up to right here. This whole table is just going to sit on top of a simple 8-sided octagon base. So it would seem. The astute among you might have noticed that I only actually cut 6 boards. I miscounted. I had to go back. I hate going back, but it worked okay. Getting my shaper set up was a pain in the butt, and of course there were 2 bits, and so you had to get the 2 bits then aligned with each other, and most of the clamps are broken, but regardless, in the end, I was able to cut those grooves. Now the first attempt at glue up was a comedy of errors. I wanted to dry fit it to see what it looked like, and yeah, it was like stacking eggs, and I just could not get it to hold together. So I resorted to we're just gonna roll with it. Went ahead, glued and pinned them with the little brad nailer there. By the time I got 3/4 of the way around, I no longer had to pin top and bottom, and eventually I didn't need to pin anything at all. Obviously, hold the whole thing together with some banding straps. First time I got to use that. Like I said, I've been wanting to build one of these for a while. I just, hadn't. Hurt your feelings, but you're being a gigantic pain in the patootie.
No! You daddy.
Yep, that's who I am.
I am a good boy.
You are an excellent boy. But sometimes you're a gigantic pain in the patootie. Alright. You know what we should do?
What?
We should stop doing this because it's so very frustrating.
Should I bring this piece over inside?
Yeah, go ahead. Now we're just going to let it dry. But I'm not thrilled with how this turned out. It's just too chunky. So I'm going to disguise that fact with a little paint. My plan is to base coat it in this, and this is just, one of those $1 mismatched Home Depot cans, and it's sort of a chalky peach color. That'll be the base coat. Then I'll put the crackle layer on top. I'm then planning on, I think, gray, starting at the corners and coming up to about here in these triangles all the way around. That remains to be seen yet. But first and foremost, I've got to get that first base coat layer, and typically use a light color because that shows up better in the bottoms of your cracks.
Daddy, the kitty
Mm-hmm.
wanted to not stay.
Oh dear. So the kitty went home?
No, he's still on the road.
Oh.
Because he's out of the different person's house. They're paying mine. Where's my paint?
Oh, you're going to try to paint too, huh? Well, no touching. If you're going to paint too, then there's no way we're painting on top of Daddy's table saw. So we have to think about this. Now, I can only use your help if you are going to be very super careful. Are you going to be very super careful?
Yep.
Are you going to keep yourself clean? Are you going to paint slowly and neatly without a lot of dribbles? Unfortunately, I'm without my helper for a few days because he loved this. This is the crackle coat. I've got 2 coats of that latex paint because you wanted a nice thick layer. And if you ever think about antique stuff, it typically has a really thick coating on it. The special magical crackle, watered down Elmer's glue. I don't know what the precise ratio I'm using here is. Maybe 3 parts glue, 1 part water. The fact that there's so much in this stupid cup is because I put too much water in it. Here it is. We're going to go ahead and paint it on, let it dry, and then that'll form the base. Deep, big, thick crackles. I usually have better luck with a little thicker glue and or maybe 2 coats of glue. Fine spider web crackles, thin the glue out a little bit. Understand what the crackle is. It's paint that's not sticking properly. So this won't stand up to any sort of high wear environment, even if you top coat it with something else. When it comes to painting on the glue, it's not rocket science. I went ahead and feathered it. You got to assume the top of the tube right now is actually the bottom later on. And so I tapered it so that it didn't actually run all the way to what will become the top. You figure the top will shade it so it won't get the sun damage, so it wouldn't be crackling. I don't know. It doesn't need to have that sort of crackle accuracy. It's really more of a practice run on my part. I went back and I cleaned up the drips and the runs. Probably shouldn't have. The thick, ropey drips and runs will give you bigger crackles. It ended up being pretty smooth crackling. Here we're using a little bit of gray paint to kind of minimize the fact that this thing is this big untapered block. This is pretty good Velspar paint. It's going right over the top of that dang Elmer's glue without a problem. So I don't know what our crackle is going to look like, or, well, even if there will be one at all. Using paint to fake a shape like this isn't as outlandish as it sounds. You can do a really good job giving an illusion of something, and that way you get to keep the stability of a larger piece, and yet it doesn't have the feel of something quite that large. This turned out to be exceptionally good gray paint. It is more just that $5 can kind of stuff. Good $5 can. So it fought the crackle pretty good. But in the end, despite my fears, she crackled up pretty nice. As you can see, the crackle is coming along quite nicely. I overbrushed it, which is why they're all running in straight, neat rows. What are you going to do? Now I'm going to take, and since this is the bottom, I'll work from here down on all of them and take off just a little bit of paint. I'll avoid taking it off towards the top because in theory the tabletop protects this part of it so it doesn't receive the wear. You're just trying to simulate years of feet scuffing. I'll do that just a little heavy-handedly. Wow. This is pretty gummy paint. It's one of the problems of working with mystery paint. You're never sure how it's going to react. I'm going to have to come up with a scraper. Scraper ought to work. I just use replacement utility knife blades as scrapers. Now, you notice how it's just wiping off, at least it appears to. That's just because everything is still so wet. Once that paint has a chance to truly harden, even on top of the Elmer's glue, it isn't this bad. I mean, it's never durable, but it's not that bad. It'll stick. Boy, I don't know why we didn't get a better crackle, because there sure wasn't much adhesion there. Oh well, that'll work. As that paint hardens, it's not that it'll stick necessarily better, but it'll be harder, so it won't won't peel quite like that. And again, if you're gonna crackle finish, you gotta understand the fake crackles are not a durable thing. To add a bit of visual interest, we're gonna sparingly add some of these old door plates that I've got kicking around. It's to add a bit of visual interest, and it's because I'm just not happy with that base. It looked better in my head. I got some of the proportions wrong. You know, I wish it was tapered, which I could probably figure out how to do. You know, we're stuck. This thing goes into the charity auction here in a few days, so like so much of what I do, it's kind of a rush job because I created the delay myself. Just the pair of them. Again, it's a legacy of that original fairy door idea. We'll have to see it when we put it together with that top, which despite its late time in the evening, I think I'm going to make an attempt to give it its first coat of polyurethane tonight. Yay, rushing things.